Hi, I'm Grimith. I mentioned in yesterday's mini update that I am embarking on a new role-playing adventure, and I wanted to create an exposition video for my character in the game and talk a bit about tangential elements. Let's begin with basics. My group of 5 plus DM is running through Waterdeep, Dungeon of the Mad Mage. It's a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition module set in the Undermountain for characters level 5 through 20. The Undermountain is a legacy, an immense, ever-changing dungeon created and managed by Hallister Blackcloak. Hallister and his baby have been a part of D&D since the early 90s, with the Ruins of Undermountain box sets. I've played adventures from those box sets. I've also played the Expedition to Undermountain Adventure, which came out for D&D 3.5. I've also played the video game Neverwinter Nights, and the Hordes of the Underdark expansion has you visiting the Undermountain to see Hallister himself. And he is such a dick. Wizards are just like scientists. You can never trust them. Now, my experience with the Undermountain will be nigh useless for this campaign, for Hallister is a capricious designer. My familiarity and comfort with D&D 5e is far more pertinent, and leads into how I ended up here. My Dungeon Master is Rahal. He featured on this channel in the Summer of Fun Sandpoint adaptation for 4e. He also featured in the misbegotten Throne of Night campaign. There's still no, and will never be, a Book 3. I was apprehensive when he invited me to this campaign. I'm cool with mega dungeon crawls, and I haven't done one in a while. But I haven't enjoyed 5e in my limited time with it. 5e, like all D&D, is hack and slash. Your typical game goes something like, you're here for prizes. You have to fight for those prizes, but good news! Everyone you fight is hopelessly evil, so there's no morality concerns. You're making the world a better place. If you don't kill these monsters, then they'll hurt others. So go get them and take their shit. You deserve it. I've certainly told stories that aren't so typical, but D&D doesn't lend itself to it. There's so much focus on conflict resolution through combat. If you want to pursue non-combat, then you could make or borrow a toolkit from another system, or you could just play another system. But circling back, this campaign is all about dungeon crawling, all about hack and slashing. I'm here to beat up evil things and take their shit, fuck yeah! Get rich or die trying. Dungeons & Dragons is fully appropriate for this campaign ethos. This module is even set in the Venerable Forgotten Realms. You can't do this and then not play D&D. It's right in the system's wheelhouse. So, I get the invite and I'm like, let me see if I can think of a story worth telling. And a class I'd be interested in playing, because I've only done one-off stuff with 5e. I've never tried to tell a longer story with it, just a handful of one-shots. Maybe I'll gain a better appreciation of this system in a few months. And if I don't, well, it won't be hard for the group to pick up a new player. There are always more foolish and desperate souls willing to brave the Undermountain for sweet prizes. It's not like, say, the Dreads of the Dragon Coast 4e campaign I'm a part of, where it would challenge the story premise to introduce a new player character. It takes some work. But that's a different topic. Back to the Undermountain. And my idea. My character is Taerin, or Taerin. He accepts either, but prefers Taerin. Taerin of Waterdeep. No last name provided, or clan name, or any other descriptor. It's unnecessary. Have you ever met another Taerin in the realms? No. You haven't. Taerin is the Dwarvish word for true love. I rest my case. But not everyone accepts that. Taerin understands necessities of etiquette or pushy people. Those folks are given Taerin Moonsong of Waterdeep, which has started a few brawls. Alas. But before Taerin was of Waterdeep, he was Taerin Worldthrone of Citadel Adbar in the Silver Marches. He was born in 1299 DR, 7 years before the Thunder Blessing that vastly increased dwarven fertility. So Taerin's birth was a celebrated occasion. It was the happiest he ever made his family, his clan. He's been a disappointment ever since, much like Martha Morduin, the Dwarven god of wanderers, is a disappointment to the rest of the Dwarven pantheon. Now, Citadel Adbar is an immense dwarven fortress. It is very remote. Its most frequent visitors are orcs, but it is the primary supplier of weapons and armor for the entire Silver Marches Confederation. It also provides mithril, which dwarves love to mine. Adbar does not lack for economic or military strength. What it had been missing for so long is manpower. Until the Thunder Blessing, more shield dwarves died every year than were born, so every dwarf mattered, from the foundations to the crenellations. But Taerin never took to his studies. He was a poor student, and he always felt different. Hell, he looked different. He's not a half-blood, but there's clear human ancestry in there, in how he looks, and maybe in how he thinks. There's a wanderlust to explore, to go beyond the horizon, and that's not for a proper shield dwarf, particularly in such an insular community, the Citadel Adbar, particularly with the influx of children after the Thunder Blessing. Taerin didn't belong. He left his home and clan and everyone he ever knew behind on a spur of the moment. He was in his 50s, going nowhere. And that wanderlust was just too much. He joined up with a caravan, leaving the Citadel, and set off on a glorious adventure. Going anywhere. And nowhere. He wasn't a good traveler. Not at first. He didn't know how to survive on the road. He had never seen a forest, a river, a desert. It had all been ice mountains his entire life. Now he's dealing with bees and boars and which berry will make him sick and when the best time to travel is and how he should pack for long distances. He learned those lessons and more across western Faerun, hopping from one caravan to another, sometimes in the employ of some private mercenary company, but occasionally on his own. He had no money. He had no family, but he felt alive and free, especially when he first saw the sea. Dwarves don't often step foot offshore. Really, they prefer to be under it. But something about the ocean, the smell, the feel, the taste, touched Taerin in a profound way that no forge or mineshaft ever had. He loved it, couldn't get enough of it. And when he learned he could get paid to be where he loved, well, nothing else mattered. From the Sword Coast to the Sea of Fallen Stars, from trade ships to mercenary war vessels, he did it all. Sailor, cooper, carpenter, makeshift surgeon, master gunner, musician, navigator, bosun, quartermaster. He was often a cook and a brewer. He could spend hours musing over a drink, contemplating the flavor, wondering how to improve it, how he could change it, how he could not make his buddies sick. It was a fun puzzle, something to occupy his mind when he wasn't being shot or stabbed or skewered or marooned or imprisoned or impressed into service or assaulted by orc corsairs, because of fucking course the hated greenskins would somehow find a way to become pirates on the open seas. He became captain for a trade company during one such assault. No one knows how to fight an orc better than a shield dwarf. Even Taerin knows that. Imagine what life was like in Faerun during the era of upheaval. From the time of troubles, the spell plague, and wailing years, into the Second Sundering. Taerin has been alive for nearly 2 centuries. Every port, a different story. Every return back to Waterdeep, his second home for decades, a new experience. But none so visceral as what happened in 1489. It was a crisp, cool, clear night. He was in port, standing on deck, looking beyond the harbor into the city walls. That's when he saw her. A beautiful woman, long, flowing silver hair, dancing before the moon. She goes by many names, the Dark Maiden, Lady of the Dance, and, for a time, the Masked Lady, until announcing her rebirth and return. Even her name has different ways to pronounce it. But none of that mattered then. Nothing did. Just the way she danced, her exultation, captured by the light of the moon. Taerin cried. He didn't understand what it meant. He stood there, long after she had gone, until first light, grieving in a way he had not felt for years. When he finally went to bed, he reached into his belongings, his prized possessions, and he pulled from it an old card as weathered and bent as he is today. The dwarven divination card, off the moon, the one which so closely resembled him. It was a sign as clear as the night before. He could not ignore it. And so Taerin resigned his post. No longer a seafaring captain, he waited for the others he knew would come, and he helped build, with his own calloused hands, the first shrine of Ialistri in Waterdeep. His life ever since these past few years has been in service to her, the goddess of beauty and dance and freedom and moonlight and song. My character, Taerin of Waterdeep, is a level 5 shield dwarf paladin of Ialistri. He is a jovial man with an easy smile and a hearty laugh. He loves life and lives it with an uncommon passion, a zeal, a zest. He journeys into the Undermountain for 3 reasons. First, he is a wanderer, and he wishes to see what lies beyond the yawning portal. Second, he wishes to accumulate enough wealth to build his own ship, a seafaring vessel capable of traveling not just above ground, but also in the waterways of the Underdark. Third, and most prominent, Taerin wishes to spread the teachings of Ialistri to all who would listen within the dungeon of the Mad Mage. He will carry her message to all decent drow down there. I intend to roleplay that to the best of my ability, taking into consideration a dungeon crawl and a party of 5. I don't know how successful Taerin will be, or how the other player characters will take to him. It'll be an adventure of my own while learning how to play this damn system. As I noted, I've only done one-shots, small little morsels of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, not played a paladin in 5e, and a level 5 character on top of that. There's a disconnect in power level between 4th edition and 5th edition, because 4th edition is such the incongruity, anomaly in, the Dungeons & Dragons line, whereas 5th edition, harkens back to older school. So it's going to take me time to get adjusted between my Defender Verdolith character, the fucking Green Dragon, Battlemind, and what Taerin can do. He's similar in, attribute build to what she is, but I intend to play him as a, character of simple mind, and really, passionate about life. Generous, perhaps to a fault, but willing to strike down the wicked, and then burn their corpses as an offering afterwards, because that is one of the teachings and desires of the Dark Maiden. Again, I do intend to inject her flavor from the evensong that he will hum at night, the long, sonorous, letting out of his emotions, for the Dark Maiden listens to all of her followers who let out their emotions like that. And if the campaign goes on long enough, well, he's going to participate in a run, because he does that annually. At least he already has the silvery hair. He just has to dye his skin the blackish hue of the drow. I could have played a half-elf paladin of Ialistri, but I contemplated that for 3 minutes, and then I decided that I would have needed to kill that character. I can't tell that story. I've told that story before. I've heard that story too many times. But a shield dwarf paladin of her, who's so enraptured and captivated by her beauty that it transforms his life, that can be a story that's worth telling. Interesting, too. Delving down into the Undermountain to carry the moonlight and her message to all decent drow. And, someone who ends up, playing not just any character, but a dwarf who values other drow, considering, the history of them and what Lolth and the rest of the Dark Selrune, have done to, twist these characters is, a curiosity. It's not exactly as if, drow are widely accepted even in the cosmopolitan city of Waterdeep. Waterdeep is very tolerant of innumerable individuals, has the capacity to, but there's a reason why the shrine that was erected was the first shrine of hers, and my understanding is that it took quite a bit of effort and political machinations including from someone high up in the Harpers to get that damn shrine built. That about does it, though, for this intro/rambling thing. I will include pertinent links in the video description. Our sessions will be recorded and live streamed not on this channel, but by Haldemir of Haldemir and Rahal, who is one of the players. Jonas does not like to record or stream this stuff. He DMs, which is why whenever he's done so, and I've been a player, I've been the one who recorded such things. But this time around, it will be Haldemir. I'll provide links to that in the video description. Our sessions are going to be taking place every fortnight, bi-weekly, on Saturdays. For example, this upcoming Saturday, November 9th at 2 p.m. U.S. Eastern Standard Time. That's 7 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Go for about 3 to 5 hours, depending on our energy levels and focuses. This first session is going to be like an introduction to our group in our descent into the Undermountain for the first time through the Yawning Portal, which has its own story flavor. Among the links I'll provide in the video description is going to be a link to the intro video on Haldemir and Rahal's channel, where they talk a bit more about Halaster Blackcloak, as well as the Yawning Portal, and you're definitely going to get more of that stuff, either by watching the stream or in our local recordings. Okie dokie, that about takes care of it. Just wanted to introduce Taerin, flesh out his history for interested viewers, because he's not a prototypical character. I had to play someone who I was invested in roleplay-wise to tell their story, even in a hack-and-slash game. Because along the way, we'll color in the details, or he'll die, or he'll move on and do something else. And I certainly didn't dig into as much as I could about, his connections and what he's been doing in Waterdeep, or like how he's been serving the Dark Maiden over the past few years. But he very clearly does have her blessing, and it's something that, the priestesses of Ilustry have had to reckon with. Like, I mean, she's fucking back, it's a rebirth, great news, she's no longer the masked lady, she's here with us once more. Who the fuck is this guy? The priesthood, such as it is of Ilustry, is, fairly progressive. Male priests have been allowed for a few centuries, although, until quite recently, they've had to, like, if they wanted to, be recognized, they had to undergo, a shape change ritual, where they had to basically, transform, their gender and do, a dance. They weren't allowed to be themselves in their own bodies, but that's been dismissed now that Ilustry has returned. Men and women are equals, which is not entirely how my old books like Demi-Human Deities, which is what that image of her is taken from, represents her, or represents, her clergy as. The drow are working through their own, patriarchy, matriarchy, gender disparity, their own, attitude towards things. Thanks, Loth. That does it, though. I rambled for longer than I intended. Take care. Enjoy yourselves, whether it's along on this adventure into the Undermountain, or on any adventure you come across, or go on yourself. Bye-bye.